Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Marr. That noise you hear is my ventilator. And thank you for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Welcome indeed as we draw nearer and nearer to the release of The Rise of Skywalker. Now, just so you know, starting next week I'm going to be going on a social media blackout. I do not really want to know the reaction people have to the film, which some of the people I follow will start to get to see it next week. I think as early as Monday, early screenings. So I'm going to kind of be hiding from all that. Because not only do I want to avoid spoilers, but I actually want to avoid people's reactions to the movie, positive or negative, or knowing what the critical reviews say, simply because I want to go in blind and want to go in with no preconceived notions about how good the movie is or how well it wraps up this saga. But fear not, I will still be doing my podcast. So just so you know, next week's episode of The Mandalorian will be dropping on Wednesday. So I will be giving you my review. I think next Thursday I'll give you my review of The Mandalorian. Now, after I see The Rise of Skywalker, I will be doing an initial reaction podcast, which I will post the day after. So I'm seeing it opening day. And so that next morning, it's Saturday morning, I usually don't do that, but Saturday the 21st, I will post my initial reaction. I may even do it on the 20th at night, but I would say most likely it will be the 21st. Once I see the movie twice, I'm not sure when that'll be, then I will give you a full review. So that's what's coming down the pipe. So let's get into today's topic. Because we're done cataloging all the major characters until we're done with the sequel trilogy, once Rise of Skywalker comes out, then we can catalog the characters of the sequel trilogy. But for today, let's talk about 3 characters from the original trilogy that we can sort of combine into one podcast. Grand Moff Tarkin, Wedge Antilles, and Boba Fett. So let's start with which of these 3 we see chronologically the earliest. And that is Boba Fett. Boba Fett is a clone of Jango Fett. Jango Fett being the bounty hunter who served as the template for the clone army, seen in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. There were 2 things that Jango wanted in return for his services. One, to be paid a lot. It was described by the Kaminoans, the cloners, as considerable fee. And the second was to have an unaltered clone that he could raise as his son. This clone is Boba. Boba is about 10 years old when we meet him in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. He is present when Obi-Wan Kenobi is doing some investigating. Jango was on Coruscant and ordered the bounty hunter Zam Wesell to assassinate Senator Amidala. This failed, but when Zam Wesell was caught by Anakin and Obi-Wan, Jango Fett silenced her with a poisoned dart. Obi-Wan used the poison dart to find his way to the planet Kamino, where the cloning was taking place, where he met with Jango and did a little bit of sleuthing to find out if Jango had been on Coruscant. Jango, of course, was kind of reluctant and kind of dodgy with his answers. Boba was present at this time. Jango suspected trouble and told Boba to pack his things, and that they were leaving. As they were about to depart in the ship Slave One, Obi-Wan appeared, tried to stop them, got into a fight with Jango, and Jango and Boba escaped, and Obi-Wan chased them and led them and a chase through an asteroid field, with Boba gleefully enjoying his father getting the best of Obi-Wan. Unfortunately, tragedy struck. Later, when Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme were captured in the Geonosis arena, the Jedi came to their rescue, led by Mace Windu, leading the new clone army. Mace faced off with Jango and decapitated him, with Boba watching the whole scene play out. The last shot we see of a young Boba is him holding his father's helmet to his forehead in mourning. And that's the last we see of Boba Fett, until his appearance in The Empire Strikes Back, in which he is tasked, along with several other bounty hunters, with finding the Millennium Falcon and bringing Han Solo into Vader's clutches. Boba Fett succeeds in tracking the Millennium Falcon to Cloud City, probably leading the Empire there. The Empire arrives, forces Lando to obey them, and then sets a trap for Han Solo. Han Solo is captured and frozen in carbonite to test the carbon freezing chamber before it's used on Luke, as that was Vader's plan all along. Boba Fett then takes his bounty to Jabba the Hutt. Boba Fett did appear in the special edition, or DVD edition, I'm not sure which edition, of A New Hope, as being there when Jabba confronts Khan in that famous deleted scene. That's now back in, the one with the really bad CGI Jabba the Hutt. Now we know that Boba Fett not only was tasked by Darth Vader with finding the Millennium Falcon, but also was tasked by Jabba the Hutt to capture Han Solo because Han has not paid his debt to Jabba. Of course, Boba Fett succeeds, and Han is delivered to Jabba's palace, where, in the events of Return of the Jedi, he is hung on the wall in carbonite as decoration. Boba Fett hangs out in Jabba's palace and is present when all the hubbub occurs. Later, when Han and Luke are taken to be, and Chewbacca are taken to be cast in to the Sarlacc pit, Boba is also there, and during the fight that ensues, faces off with Luke, where he's defeated, and then Han accidentally ignites Boba's jetpack, sending Boba slamming into the side of Jabba's sail barge and tumbling into the Sarlacc pit, and that is the end of Boba Fett. As far as we know, we don't know. Did he escape? Is he going to reappear? Maybe on The Mandalorian. We don't know. We'll find out someday. So, that's the story of Boba Fett. I've never been really that interested in Boba Fett. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate the character. I don't dislike the character. I've just never been very compelled by him. He looks really cool. His voice in the original cut of the film was really cool. There was a lot of mystery, so I can understand that, but he kind of went out like a punk. So, to be honest, I've never been that interested. And the inclusion of the character in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, didn't really amount to much. Except maybe seeing his dad cut down in front of his eyes. That's gotta have a bad effect. Now, there were some episodes of the Clone Wars with the young Boba that are really good. So, I've come to appreciate the character a little bit more that way. But based on its film appearances, I've never been that impressed. Okay, let's jump now to Grand Moff Tarkin. Tarkin first appears in Revenge of the Sith at the very end of the movie as the Emperor and Vader are looking at the early construction of the Death Star. Just a very brief scene. The next time we see Tarkin is during the events of Rogue One. Tarkin is basically Krennic's boss. And he's very, very critical of Krennic because of all the setbacks and delays that have caused the Death Star's progress to be halted. The construction began 19 years before the events of Rogue One. And because of setbacks and delays, it's taken them this long. And the fact that Bodhi Rook is defected from the Empire and basically started spreading the word about the Death Star. This, of course, caused no end of headaches to Grand Moff Tarkin. And basically, he basically told Krennic, you've got to take care of this breach, this security breach, and get this, stop this information from getting out. Which Krennic promised to do. Now, Tarkin then was present when the Death Star was tested on the capital city of Jeddah. The Holy City. This is before the Death Star had first destroyed a whole planet, that of course being Alderaan, which is ceremonially the completion of the Death Star. Krennic had suggested blowing up all of Jeddah, all the planet, the moon rather. To which Tarkin said, nah, just blow up the city. Which they did in an attempt to silence any further security breaches. This attack, of course, failed to kill Bodhi and the other rebels who had rescued it, but did claim the life of Saw Gerrera and many of his partisans. After the test was completed, Tarkin was pleased, but then dropped a bombshell when he said, I'm going to be taking control of the Death Star now that I've seen it work. Now, he had been one of the early proponents of the Death Star. The early people to say, let's build a Death Star. This could really help us rule the galaxy through fear. But now that he had seen it work, he said he was going to be taking control of it. Director Krennic had really been the one in charge of this project and was very put out that Tarkin was going to be taking it from under his nose. This, of course, leads Krennic to travel to Mustafar to meet with Darth Vader, trying to get an audience with the Emperor. And, of course, we know how that went. Tarkin is a rather conniving, how shall I describe it? A conniving bastard is what he is. And when the rebels made their attack on Scarif, actually, no, to back up, Tarkin was the one who pointed out, after taking control of the Death Star, that he thought it was very odd that Bodhi Rook had originally been on Edu, which is where Galen Erso was working on details about the Death Star. Tarkin suspected that Galen Erso was a traitor to the Empire. To which Krennic, or should I say Tarkin, suspected that Erso was a traitor, and of course Krennic traveled to Edu to determine that, and during that situation, Galen Erso was killed. Tarkin was then present when he heard the word that the rebels were attacking Scarif, and ordered the Death Star to travel there. The Death Star emerged and destroyed the Citadel Tower, claiming the lives of all the rebels. Next we see of Tarkin is informing the bickering commanders on the Death Star that the Emperor had dissolved the Imperial Senate. And announced that regional governors would have direct control over their territory. Tarkin was also present when Leia was brought to the bridge of the Death Star. Tarkin then decided to destroy Alderaan after using it to try to get the information out of Leia where the rebel base was. Of course, Leia informed him of an abandoned rebel base and not the main rebel base on Yavin 4. And Tarkin decided to use Alderaan to demonstrate the full power of the Death Star, which he did and destroyed it. Tarkin was also present when Vader informed him that a homing beacon was attached to the Millennium Falcon. They followed the Falcon to Yavin. Tarkin believed that the rebel fighters that were sent to attack the Death Star would be of no threat. He said, "Evacuate in our moment of triumph? Surely you overestimate their chances." And of course, the Death Star was destroyed, killing Tarkin. And that is the end of Tarkin. I really like this character. I think Peter Cushing was a marvelous actor. I'm not very sure that they should have digitally resurrected him. I don't think that was a good idea, ethically. And I think it would have been just fine just to get an actor to play it. And I think that's one of the dangers of this new technology. I don't really think resurrecting dead actors is a good idea. Now, if an actor dies during filming and they need to do something to finish it up, okay, I can understand that. But recreating a dead actor, I don't like. But regardless, I have to admit, I actually liked the CGI. The reason being is that Peter Cushing was always a very cadaverous-looking guy. So I was okay with that. Was it a little distracting? Yeah. Yeah, I think so, but I was okay with it. But regardless, Peter Cushing was marvelous. A great actor, a great gentleman, based on everyone's description. And I very much like this character. Also, he appears on Clone Wars and Rebels. Very well done. The voice actor, Stephen Stanton, does a great job of capturing what a younger Cushing might sound like, as well as an older one during the events of Rebels. So, great. Check out those episodes. They're wonderful. What a great character. Now we come to Wedge Antilles. Wedge first appears on screen, or on film, in A New Hope, as Red 2, during the attack on the Death Star. He's one of the few survivors. He and Luke are the only X-Wing pilots to survive the battle. 2 X-Wings and a Y-Wing survived the battle, and the Millennium Falcon. Wedge was very, very helpful to Luke in getting him out of trouble several times, and Luke doing the same for Wedge. Wedge, of course, also utters the infamous line, "Look at the size of that thing." And so he survives that battle and contributes greatly to the battle's success by helping to protect Luke as Luke started the trench run. Unfortunately, Wedge had to pull out because he'd been hit, but his actions no doubt helped save the day. Then we jump to the events of The Empire Strikes Back. Wedge appears as, I believe, Rogue 3 during the Battle of Hoth. And he and his gunner are the first to bring down a AT-AT, I believe, using their tow cable. Very well done. Good shot, Jansen. Wedge yet again surviving the battle, being one of the few that survive, and contributes greatly to the success of allowing the rebels time to escape before the Empire crushed them. Taking down the AT-AT that they did, no doubt, helped save the day. This brings us to Return of the Jedi. Wedge, you first see him without his helmet at the briefing held by Mon Mothma to plan the attack on the Death Star. Wedge then appears during the battle as Red Leader. Yet again doing quite well in the battle and helping out his comrades with encouraging words. A good shot, Red 2. And I had him for the medical frigate. He says some great lines that are very memorable that we all like to quote. And, of course, is one of the X-Wing pilots to follow the Millennium Falcon into the entrails of the Death Star. As they entered the reactor chamber of the core, Wedge hits the power regulator on the North Tower, as they describe it, and the Millennium Falcon shoots the reactor. These two attacks combined cause the reactor to explode, and Wedge and the Millennium Falcon escape before the Death Star is destroyed, though the Millennium Falcon barely makes it in time, as it shoots out of the flames at the last minute. Wedge, yet again, surviving another major battle. And as far as I know, and I'm sure that there's other canon material about this that might contradict what I'm about to say, but I believe Wedge is the only pilot that I know of to survive all three major engagements as seen in the original Star Wars trilogy. So that is the story of Wedge Antilles. Of course, we see him giving Han Solo a handshake and I think giving Luke a hug. I think during the celebration on Endor. You know, Wedge, of course, is a great hero who saved the galaxy through his efforts, because each time he fought that we see on screen, his actions led to the success of the battle. You know, I know that the rebels lost the battle path, but the plan was not to stop the Empire; it was to escape before the Empire could crush them. But Wedge's actions, no doubt, helped save the galaxy. I really like the character of Wedge. He's one of the great side characters. Star Wars has great side characters. Characters that may not get a lot of screen time, but we as fans fall in love with. Now, I would love to see Wedge return in The Rise of Skywalker. I don't know how likely that is. I know that the actor, Dennis Lawson, was offered to return to The Force Awakens, but was not interested. Dennis Lawson, by the way, is the uncle of Ewan McGregor in real life. Dennis Lawson does a great job as Wedge. Wedge is such a memorable character. Dennis Lawson is a great actor who does a lot of British television. And he actually appeared on an episode of Victoria that I watched. He did a great job. He's a Scottish actor. I think he was dubbed over in A New Hope, but I think in Empire and Jedi, that's his real speaking voice. Which, if you notice, in Return of the Jedi has a slightly Scottish sound to it. Wedge is a great character. He's a wonderful, memorable side character that I love, and so many people love. And I know a lot of people, he's their favorite side character. I would love to see him return. We'll see if he does. We don't have very long to wait now to find out. So those are three characters that I thought it would be very interesting to talk about today. As I think each of them deserves to be talked about. But they would be very short episodes indeed if I only talked about them one at a time. So those are my thoughts on these three original trilogy characters. Let me know what you think about Boba Fett, Wedge Antilles, and Grand Moff Tarkin. My name is Brendan Marr, that knows your Earthling Ventilator, and thank you for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.